so I got the new condenser mounted in here, this time with the right top fitting, and I put a little bit of copper anti-seize just on the like the third and fourth thread, not right at the edge because we don't want to get any down actually in the port. And because the, oops, I'm dropping bolts all over the place. Then because this one's seized on that, trying to wrench it off, it literally was seized onto the end of the pipe, and there was no separating either of them except that ripping out of the condenser. That's in an older video. I don't know, look through the archives. Trying to remember which video it was. I'll go through it and maybe post a link in the description, but that just ripped off, so I had to get a new top pipe, new top line. Not an inexpensive purchase, unfortunately, and it had to come. I believe this actually came from Sweden. If you can leave these connected, don't touch them. If you don't have a leak, if you try to disconnect that, you're going to end up ripping that port off of the condenser. This is not going to come apart. So, for future, if I need to service this, I'm hoping that this copper anti-seize will help prevent the seizing right there. This is an aluminum nut, so, and it's aluminum pipe, so it shouldn't seize, but you just never know. Don't forget the O-ring. Make sure it's clean. With a little pag on the O-ring, a little bit of oil on it. Okay, now we need to figure out orientation wise how to get this to go on there. I'm thinking we may have to turn this, let me back the camera out. Definitely needs to come across over that way, I think. Or does it go under that one? Maybe it goes under. It goes under. Like that. And that should line up good. Now we need an O-ring. Let's see, we need one of the fat ones that fits that diameter, which I believe is that. Yep. Got a little pag left here. Just kind of oil it up a little bit. If you hold pressure on it for a minute or so like that, it should stay. If that pops up while you're screwing this down, it will reach over and you will pinch part of the rubber off and it will not seal. So you want to go straight down with the connector. Now we just need to position this and then tighten that nut up with an adjustable wrench. That way this isn't touching anything right here. It's loose. Remember, the O-ring seal this, not the pressure on the threads. So don't go crazy. It just needs to compress that O-ring and not back off. That's it. This isn't touching anything. We're good to go. That's tightened down. I'm going to double check the bottom connection and make sure it's good. And then I'm going to get the vacuum pump out and we're going to try to pull a vacuum on it. So here's the vacuum pump. Get it set up, plugged in. Have the yellow charge recovery line going up to my R134A manifold in the middle. Port without the Schrader valve. And then I have high pressure red line going down to the high pressure port on the Seiko Seiki compressor is on the end. Low pressure is on the top, and that goes blue up to the low pressure / vacuum side. Everything is closed. We're going to start the pump and go ahead and start it. Flip the pump on. Now it's going to start pulling through here, through the manifold, and we want to open up both sides. You see now there's a vacuum on the manifold. Now we're going to go in here and open up low side and high side. Get it sucking tons of vapor out. Now we got to take it off the vacuum pump and we'll hook it up to the regulator on the nitrogen tank here. We'll put some pressure in it. It's bubbling under the retention plate, so the evaporator coil and the expansion valve are leaking. That means the O-rings didn't sit right. That's why you can't rely on that telling you there's a vacuum for 45 minutes because of that right there. It's not holding pressure. It held a vacuum, but it's not holding pressure. You got to do both. I pulled off the expansion valve and I pulled the plate with the retainer here with these hoses. The bracket's fine. What I found though is that the high pressure side O-ring got smashed. Wrong size. That one looked like it was the right size. So, how do you know out of the big bag of O-rings which one to use? Well, on something like this, it's got to be a perfect fit. It's got to be the right size or it won't seal right. Best thing to do is to look at, there's two lips on this. There's one where the flange sits and there's one where the sealing edge, which is a step down below it. So you see there's a step here and a step here. The one on the inside is where you should be able to just gently push the O-ring in and it should seat without bunching up or curling like that. Same thing for the other one. If it's too thick, it's going to want to roll and bend. If it's too thin, it's going to drop in there and it's not going to require any force. You got to be able to use your finger or thumb to get it to go in there for it to seal right. So we're going to put those O-rings on the end of these lines, and then hopefully I can get it to sit properly. This bracket needs to be pushed all the way up against the lines when we crank down on it to pull, and that pulls these lines up into the bottom of that. And the screws go through these two holes, and that pulls that plate up and seals it together. Then the top plate mounts on these two with similar O-rings, and then that one screw holds the top plate down, sealing it on the top side. See, these use smaller ones. This bigger. Uh-oh. little one goes down on this. I'm just going to use a little nylon glue just to help it go on. This is a thread sealant used in the HVAC industry. You put this down in your connectors so that you don't have leaks. It's inert, does not cause any system problems, and you can also use it as a O-ring lube. Okay, this needs to go all the way up against it. If you look down on the plate, there should be no gap along the bottom edge. That means that this is sitting flush on the plate. Oh, come on. This is always the fun part, is getting this stuff lined up. That one is. That one is. There it goes. Lines are leaking. This freaking line's leaking too. It's leaking on the manifold. So I'm gonna have to charge it, man, straight in, I guess. Alright, you know what, forget this here gauge. I would use it when I charge, but I'm not using it right now to test this. Flip this line around. That has a Schrader valve pusher in it that will connect to this tank. It sounds like one of the O-rings blew out. That thing is going to be a pain. It is not sealing. Well, I guess I will futz around with that until I can actually get it to stop leaking. And then we'll pick the video up.